Hey there, welcome back. I'm Sean. This is Sean Turns Up the Volume. Today I wanted to talk about the ICE shooting involving Renee Nicole Good that just happened the other day. First and foremost, when somebody gets killed, like through a circumstance like that, like it's really tragic. First and foremost, like obviously she and her partner did not expect what they were doing to be something that would have lethal consequences. It's sad for somebody to get killed. It's sad for somebody to get killed doing something that was reckless and avoidable. And there's a lot of mourning people out there, and there's a lot of people affected by this who would maybe relate to her or feel and sympathetic. I mean, obviously, many of those on the left are sympathetic to this and riled up about it. And it is a tragedy for her to have lost her life in that way. There's also a very layered sort of situation as well. One of the things that pushed me to start making a channel and making videos was the murder of Charlie Kirk. And when that was a context where he goes out there and gives talks and debates with people, shares his values and engages in rational dialogue. And Tyler Robinson went out there with a gun and just shot him down and murdered him just for sitting and speaking. And so that was an attack on free speech. That was an attack on conservative American values, traditional American values, and so many on the left either celebrated it or minimized it and excused it as well. He said racist things. He said hateful things. Kind of a he deserved it sort of thing. And so many felt that way. That was such a common sentiment. It was disgusting, a disgusting sentiment. And so, I want to be caring to the fact that this is tragic, that she lost her life in this situation, this Renee Good. And at the same time, these are very different circumstances. And so, I mean, I'll just lay out what happened. You got to be living under a rock if you don't know what happened. If you're watching this video and you don't know what happened, you might have been under a rock. Okay. But so they're on this operation, and in the videos that there are on this woman, um, she's there with her girlfriend. They've been calling her a wife, though they weren't legally married. And that girlfriend gets out of the car. She's recording what's going on. They apparently had done some sort of trainings to interfere intentionally with what ICE is doing. And obviously, they were there to make a scene. They were there to record some sort of interactions with interfering with what ICE was doing. And there's videos that they seem to be quite smug. I mean, the girlfriend is just like, it's like a game. Just doesn't care in the comments she's making to the ICE officer. She's like telling him, "Oh, kind of like go away, go get lunch," just being defiant towards him as she's walking to the car to start pulling on the handle. And then that's when the car, because they're blocking the road with the vehicle, blocking ICE. And then that's when the event happens where one of the ICE officers is reaching into the car to arrest Renee Good, and then she backs up. I think she backs up. She pulls forward, and that ICE agent was standing in front of the car. He gets like bumped or hit or some kind. I mean, the car is coming at him. He's actually been dragged by a car in a previous circumstance. Got a bunch of stitches from that, so he's actually been through this before and injured because of that. And in this situation, pulls out his gun real quick and pops 3 shots into the vehicle. And one of those obviously connected with Renee Good, hit her in went through the windshield, hit her in the face, and killed her. And like that is tragic, right? Like there's all sorts of circumstances where like this could have gone a different. There's different. There's different ways it could have gone, right? Like in some situations, depending on the circumstances, an officer might have um, just dodged out of the way. Maybe the first reaction would have been to just dodge out of the way, jump out of the way, or something. Some circumstances you'd have that. In some circumstances, you'd have the officer would pull their gun and shoot because the vehicle is a deadly weapon. The vehicle is dangerous. Could run you over real quick, right? It's a 4,000 pound weapon, and in some circumstances, if there was a multiverse of events, you could have all of the bullets could have easily missed, and she would have just been like arrested down the road, right? It could have been where a bullet struck, but was just an injury. In this particular instance, it was. I think a lot of people would view it as a relatively low, like a low level kind of looking scenario. Like it's like obviously it's so divisive because people are like, well, he should have just gotten out of the way, and like, well, he also has the right to shoot somebody who's coming at him with their vehicle, which is a dangerous, deadly weapon, and particularly people on the right are more about personal responsibility and making good choices. People on the left tend to be about blaming others, being victims, making excuses for people's actions, in particular when it comes to the police, and going the police need to have infinite patience and restraint, using the least amount of force ever in all circumstances, and they'll eviscerate them if they don't. That seems to be the stance of the modern left. There's just so many like layers to this. I wanted to peel apart. So like and even on, I mean, you can see a different opinion. I mean, even on the right, even in conservative circles, you can see a degree of difference of opinions. I mean, I think the gist of it is basically like, yeah, you could shoot. Is it the best decision to shoot? It could be a lot easier to walk away, right, by not doing that. Obviously, this has complicated that ICE officer's life. It's ended the life of Renee Good. It's brought all this attention. It gave the left a martyr that politically is riling them up, perhaps in similar ways as to like Charlie Kirk being murdered on the right, or in the past. I mean, there's Michael Brown and George Floyd. The left tends to be riled up when people engaged in illegal criminal behavior get killed by that behavior. That's been a big spark, and so there's like that element of I don't know if that would be irony. This is another instance where there was a series of bad choices being made. It is sad that she is dead. It is so sad for the people who have lost her, and yet there's a series of choices that were made, of irresponsible behaviors that were made. Okay, going in intentionally interfering with what law enforcement is doing, and viewing the law enforcement as if they don't have authority. Like there's this like make believe stance on the left that that like ICE are just these masked men with no authority, and it's very confusing to me that they both view them as being like unauthorized, illegitimate. They're just like the evil forces of Trump, just kidnapping people or murdering people or whatever. There's like that view, and then there's also so let's go mess with them and interfere with what they're doing, and protest and instigate things so that you're getting like shot with tear gas and different things like that. This is not just protests. Like once you get violent, once you're blocking vehicles, once you're getting hands on, that's not protest anymore. You're committing crimes at that point. They're doing those things, and there's this cognitive dissonance. There's doublethink here. Like this is 1984 Orwellian doublethink. This ICE agent is simultaneously somehow this person that will just go out and do like whatever lawlessly and could arrest you, disappear you, kill you, whatever. And at the same time, you're going to mess around with them. You're going to FAFO, like F around, find out. And then be like surprised by that and outraged by that as well. So it's weird that that leftists, that segment of them are holding like both of these beliefs, right? It's the same sort of cognitive dissonance that seems to exist in the, at least in the liberal side of the black community, where it's like, well, police are out there to systemically oppress you and will murder you for anything, but also like you could fight with the police, like run from the police, wave a gun around at the police, like you do whatever to the police, and there's not going to be any responsibilities or accountability for that or any risk for that. And how dare they forcefully arrest you or end up shooting you for the things that you're doing? Like both things are somehow being held up. It's like, if you believed this, if you believed that they were so dangerous, why would you do this? If you believed that ICE is so incredibly dangerous, why would you go and mess around with them? The ideology of the left is playing into that. Things like the white privilege. Like, is she viewing herself as the leftist protesters more widely? Are they viewing themselves as that there's not going to be consequences, that they're above being harmed, that ICE can only go after people who are illegals, that they can't be arrested by ICE, that there won't be consequences for them? And then when the liberal media, the politicians, the judges and DAs who don't prosecute and let them off, the media that encourages them to think that ICE doesn't have authority, that they're Gestapo, Nazis, that the city or state government's going to be on your side against them, like it inflames these false ideas about them. It inflames the anger against them. It encourages engaging in dangerous behaviors with them like this. And so it seems like that ideology was going on. That, like, I have a separate video where I talk about having been pulled over a time. Like, I have a concealed carry permit, and so being pulled over, how I navigated that as far as having a gun on me and safely navigating that with the officer. I can't imagine intentionally going and messing with the police. I can't imagine intentionally blocking a police vehicle and arrogantly just acting like whatever, it's all a big joke, it's all a big game. Like the reality is there's no special shield around you as a white person, white liberal, white lesbian liberal, whatever. There's no protective barrier. You're going to be held accountable. If anything, like, of course, you have no special DEI privilege. You like me as a white guy. The irony in the modern age, as the left claims that I would have all kinds of privilege. Like, there's no privilege there. I follow the friggin' rules of things. I follow the laws of things. For one, because that's how I'm wired. I care about being like a good moral of citizen and doing the right things. I don't like to make people's lives more difficult. I certainly don't want to make my life more difficult. I want to follow the law and be wise in the way that I navigate my life and the choices that I make. And like, breaking the law is not a good idea. That's a stupid idea. So I know that if I were to obviously, if I were to do the actions like these women took, that I would expect absolutely to be forcefully removed from my vehicle. Certainly, if I engaged in the actions in that video of what Renee Good did, if me or I don't know, any other white guy did that sort of thing, you would expect you would get lit up in that car. You would get shot. You try to drive your vehicle when there's law enforcement in front of you, they're trying to arrest you, there's a good chance you're going to get shot. Like, it's not a good idea to do. You don't want to put somebody in a circumstance where, like, it's like, well, sometimes officers shoot people, and it's like, well, they shouldn't have done that. Maybe even to a criminal level that they shouldn't have done that. Maybe they might even be charged. Maybe they might even go to jail for that. It's like you don't want to put yourself into a situation where there was a gray enough area where you got shot, right? Like George Floyd being on fentanyl and resisting arrest and making it really hard to be arrested. It's like, well, he ended up dead through that. Like if the choices you make are going to put you in a situation where you're dealing with the law, with enforcement, where like what good is it to you? It's like, oh well, if it's like a situation where it's like, well, the officer shouldn't have done that, and you end up dead because of it. Like that doesn't do you any good. Oh, if in this situation the ICE officer was totally in the wrong, and you still ended up shot and dead, that is inherently reckless and not wise. Like, the media should be encouraging people to be wise in their decision making. Parents should be encouraging their children to be wise. Friends should be encouraging their friends to be wise. Going and interfering with what ICE is doing is not wise. It is obviously dangerous. This has been a perfect thing for Tim Walz to try to get the heat off of him for all the fraud being exposed. The irony of like Waltz and the Mayor Frey and the protesters telling ICE to get out of their city, that they don't belong there, they don't want them there. The irony of this is just like they're defending on behalf of criminal illegal aliens, on behalf of them, telling law enforcement, telling American citizen law enforcement agents to get out. They don't want them there. Like what next? It is. Are they going to build a wall around Minneapolis? Are they going to build a wall around it? Are they going to start asking for documents of people to see if they're ICE agents or not, and not let them in if they're ICE agents? There's places that don't want to, that like the Hilton Hotel thing, where it's like, well, we don't want to let the ICE agents stay here. Like the discrimination against the lawful citizens, the ones who are actually enforcing laws here, while defending those who should not be here, who need to be sent back to their own country. I mean, it's just the height of ironic double standard. What else? I had notes to hit on here. They've blamed this on ICE. They blame this on Trump. Like anything to blame Trump. I don't know what the left is going to do when Trump is out of office and they can't blame him anymore. The TDS will have to transfer it to somebody else. They talk about they blame the inciting to violence on Trump when they've been framing ICE as Nazis and stuff, and the media has been like encouraging. I mean, when you frame them as masked people, and constantly talk about the illegals as victims and ICE as like evil, you're riling up the population against them. What else did I want to hit on? There's been this pervasive lie. I don't know. Are they still saying it at this point? I mean, it's been, I think this event happened on Thursday. The initial reporting for at least a day on the left is people saying, well, Renee Good was just trying to leave. The people there when she was shot, like, are immediately like calling ICE murderers and saying, what did you do? This disregard for personal responsibility and personal actions. I mean, absolutely. Like if somebody you knew made a series of stupid choices and got themselves killed, and you're there and you care about them, you're absolutely going to be broken. You're going to be angry. Like, that's totally understandably, you're still going to feel all of these emotions of loss and all of that. Like, and that's what these people, I'm sure, are experiencing. But for anybody else not directly connected to that, right? You're looking at this situation of you don't have that emotional linkage, and that still doesn't take away the personal responsibility factor. That it was a series of choices that she made that put her into that situation and created the dangerous situation in which the consequence ended up being getting shot and actually being killed by that. The out the and so, okay, so you've got you've got the false narrative, the propaganda narrative from leftist media and people on YouTube going she was just trying to leave. That's obvious. That's just shrink away any accountability of her own actions and put it all on ice. So there's a spin there. I think that left-wing radicals who are willing to do this kind of behavior view themselves as like those whose consciousness, there we go, has been raised to where they see themselves like they're the ally, they're the critical justice warrior, they are the awoken proletariat, um, workers class freedom fighter that needs to fight on behalf of the other proletariat, who maybe isn't awoken to the greater cause of of Marxism and the overthrow of the bourgeoisie. And the ice represents the bourgeois. Those who want law and order represent that. Trump represents that. White people, conservatives represent that, and so they're siding with anything they view as the proletariat victims who they need to they'll advocate, they'll try to interfere with ICE on behalf of criminals, just straight up. It's not even just immigration violations, but also other sorts of crimes, because they still view them as class victims who are ultimately like on their side, rather than seeing them as individuals. They're not seeing them as individuals. Right? They're being put into a class. And the reality is that we're all individuals, and much of our lives are dictated by our individual choices, by our individual responsibility, not not class status, not by our skin color, not by our sexual identity, not by these different things. It is being determined by the choices that we make. So much of it. Like as a therapist, you work with the individual and you empower the individual, and so much can be changed in the individual's life because of how they think, how they frame things, how they feel motivated to change in their lives. So much can be overcome, especially in America, by the kinds of choices that you make. And the left goes, well, why is somebody an illegal alien? Well, it's because of they came from a dangerous country full of crime, and they're just here for a better life, and it's just our awful system of laws that is making it hard for them. And sympathy, 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 sympathy. First and foremost, like, you don't know any of that, because that's a generalized statement. You don't know any particular circumstances, and then that's part of the problem. Like, you don't know. Oh, 100,000 people came across the border in a month. Who? From where? What's their background? Don't know. What are they doing? Don't know. Biden was flying them around the country, busing them around the country. The states giving them welfare and things, giving them our tax dollars and things, incentivizing this sort of thing. And so there's actually a whole series of life choices that are involved in why anybody is in a certain circumstance. But certainly there's people who are illegal aliens who their primary crime is that they've broken immigration law in some way, and otherwise, I mean, they might be breaking some other laws as far as how they're continuing to live and work here as well. Maybe aren't stealing, aren't committing fraud, aren't committing violent crimes, things like that, right? So there's certainly some group of the population of illegal aliens who their main crime would be that they're here illegally and they need to be sent back because they their their citizenship is in another country and they didn't follow the process, and that's enough. And then there are plenty who have committed additional crimes, from DUIs and hit and runs and theft and fraud and violent crimes. And I just made another video going through some of the worst of the worst that ICE is going after. And ICE is going after primarily those who have committed crimes, but I mean anybody who have committed like additional and worse crimes, but I mean anybody who's here illegally is already committing a crime. Okay, there's people living and working in any of the countries that these people are coming from, making a livelihood. And for those countries to change would require the people in those countries to change them. Okay, it's nice that like how generous of America, of Trump, to send our military over to go nab up socialist dictator Maduro and help out the people of Venezuela to get some freedom. Like did a lot of heavy lifting there so that they can do some freedom. I think the bombing campaign that happened in Iran really weakened the Ayatollah, the power of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard or whatever there. And so now they're having protests. They're going out into the streets. They're fighting for their freedom. And I hope that they're able to attain that. At the same time, it is up to those people to change their nations. It's up to those people to get their freedom. It's up to those people to change what their countries are. You know, coming back to America, like that, like the people on the left, it's like, well, he shouldn't have shot her for that. It's like the left wants to disarm all of us. You've got leftists hypocritically going, well, making threatening statements saying that liberals should get armed, and making even threats against ICE. And then you've got defund the police, get rid of the prisons, and then you've also got, but only the government. And that the government is systemically racist and oppressive. But then you've got only the government should have the guns, and only the government is professional enough to have the guns and use of force and all of that too. And don't defend yourself. No, the left is not about self-defense. They don't want you to defend yourself against their constituents. And so there's like all these layers of hypocrisy in this. So it's like, here's this. If you want to live in a society where the police don't have to carry guns, I think England used to be like that. I think Japan is still like that. Then you need to be the kind of people that the police don't need to carry guns. Now, I think, of course, that like the law, in order to enact law, enforce law, has to be able to employ force. Okay, I read these things where it's like, well, in the past in Australia or New Zealand or in maybe England and places in America, it's like, well, they didn't used to lock their doors. It's like, that was probably never a good idea not to be locking your doors, because it's an incentive. It's a cultural incentive thing. If you're incentivizing that the person who might be a criminal, and they might go and they're the criminal of opportunity, and go, if they're given the opportunity, maybe they'd be inclined to break in and steal, but they just enough knowing that the door is locked is going to be enough to be like, okay, I'm not going to do that. But if your society is being naive and going, well, we're going to do that, then that's conveying to the criminal, like, hey, you can go ahead and do that. Or the person who's maybe inclined towards that thing. It's incentivizing that crime could occur. But I digress. If you want to live in a society where ICE doesn't need guns, like we wouldn't need much ICE if we had the kinds of regulations and strong borders so that we didn't have tons of illegal aliens coming in And if we weren't opening our country up to be the refuge for anyone and everyone in the world for any reason, regardless of how well they're going to assimilate, and then also putting them on welfare, which just destroys incentives um, to be productive working citizens as well. But that's its own thing. Like, be the kind of citizen so that and hold people accountable and have the kind of justice system so that the police don't have to be worrying so much that any person in an instant is going to try to run them over or shoot them. Like, if you don't want police to have quick trigger fingers, then that's the kind of citizen you need to be. That's the kind of society we need to have, where criminals get harsh punishments, they get locked up, or they get executed for their violent crimes and repeated offenses and things. I mean, life for a life. If you kill someone, like, then that should result in the end of your life. If you're a repeat violent offender, like, you probably shouldn't be allowed to be in society at all anymore. If you're the kind of person who's just stealing and stealing and stealing and stealing, break-ins, robberies, things like that. Again, like, this whole soft on crime stance that the liberal DAs and judges have encourages this. They are part of the lawlessness. They got into the justice system in order to enact lawlessness. And it makes everything more dangerous. It makes it more dangerous for the rest of us. It makes it more dangerous for the police. They have to have encounters where they're arresting the same people over and over again. And then the criminals are being incentivized. They're being behaviorally reinforced that they're not going to receive a real punishment for what they do. Just as the protesters are being shown that they can mess with police or mess with ICE and get violent with them, and maybe the local DA won't prosecute them. They'll be let off. There's not going to be consequence. This causes escalation. This reinforces more bad behavior to teach across society that they can do more crap and get away with it. If you want to live in a society that you're not worrying about being shot by the police, then you need the sort of society that is safe, that has a high level of trust, to where you can go to the time period where the your relationship to police was just that they're like the friendly cop, I don't know, maybe in like an old TV show or something where, like, I just watched Stranger Things, and it's like Hopper is the nice local police chief. He's kind of like one of you, but sometimes he's got to enforce the law against somebody. Society needs to be producing that kind of thing. That requires society to judge that there's things that are better and there's things that are worse. There's societies that are better and cultures that are better and cultures that are worse. Societies that are worse. There's behavior that is better. There's behavior that is worse. And the liberal position for decades has been to go, don't make judgments. Don't judge other cultures. Don't judge other behaviors. All things are equally good. Also, white people are evil, and white American culture and history is all evil and needs to be like abolished and obliterated and hated all at the same time. Right? I mean, it's evident in the murder of Charlie Kirk. To judge is worthy of death according to the left. And the highest virtue is to not judge, but to also judge those who judge. And the other highest virtue is, of course, to judge those who enforce judgments. That's law enforcement. That's ICE. Okay, they can't stand that behavior is being judged. It's being judged criminal and wrong, and it's being enforced. A consequence is being enforced, and they can't stand it because it's against who they've determined to be a victim group above enforcement, above judgment. And so they hate ICE and they hate law enforcement. They hate these laws. If you make a judgment or enforce a judgment, you're the worst. So long as that judgment is against one of their class victims, one of their policies, or how they want to change the world. I've been reading this book called Life at the Bottom by Theodore Dalrymple, and he says almost that very thing. in his book, pointing out that this value of non-judgment, this value of non-judgment just sets up culture to fail, to rot. There are things that are better, and there are things that are worse, and you're not going to have you're not going to have a peaceful, caring, high trust society with low police involvement and low crime when you're not willing to say there are things that are good and there are things that are bad. And those things are already understood traditionally in our society. These are things that are being eradicated by the left that the Marxists want to abolish. Traditionally, don't like it'd be like the Ten Commandments. It's like don't steal, don't murder. Those would be the criminal elements of that. Don't defraud people, don't steal, don't murder, don't rape, don't kidnap. Actual kidnap. Law enforcement arresting people is not kidnapping. ICE arresting people is not kidnapping. What else? Don't don't lie. That one can be criminal. That one can potentially be criminal if it's legal stuff. Don't lie. What else? What else do we need to judge as wrong? Don't harass people. Don't assault people. Don't stalk people. Don't break into their homes. Don't destroy their stuff. Don't graffiti. Don't damage things that aren't yours. That'd probably be the gist of it. If you lived in a society where people abided by that, all of those don'ts, that would be probably like a kick-ass society. That would be people. That would be honest and truthful. Be kind to people. I mean, like the golden rule, like treat others as you want to be treated. You're just respecting other people. You're respecting the people. You're respecting their property. You're not messing with people. You're not taking things from them. You're not hurting them. Like it's like that goes a long way. If you're not doing any of those things, you're going a long way to respect and get along with people just like that. And those are traditional things that are being eroded with from the left. Is going, well, you shouldn't judge those things and you shouldn't punish those things and you should just let people off a million times over and make excuses for them for blaming society, blaming their childhood, blaming their parents, blaming this, blaming that, blaming racism, blaming systemic whatever. And now we have the situation of you resist arrest against law enforcement while you're operating a vehicle, while you're operating something that's dangerous and that can be a weapon, and create the circumstances of your death, and on behalf of somebody who was a criminal. Like, that is not a situation to be a martyr for. It's so avoidable. I mean, it's sad and it's so avoidable. What else did I want to hit on before I go? I wanted to point out that back in the summer of love, when in Seattle, I think it was around where that police station was burned down. I think that area that was captured by radical leftists, they named it the Chaz, they named it the Chop. And there was an event where I believe it was some teens, I think it might have been some black teens, had stolen a car and was approaching the Chaz, the Chop, and the people like protecting this area illegally, of course, illegally occupying this area, opened fire on it, and I think killed one of them. I mean, I think there were two, and it killed one of them. And I don't recall any media outrage about that. There's so many circumstances where there's no media outrage. There's other situations where I've seen cops shoot into vehicles and kill the person who's driving, and it doesn't. I've seen a lot of police shooting videos, and they're justified shootings, and you can see that, and there's no big outrage. But it seems like because this involved ICE, and it's like politically useful. It's being used as the get ICE out of Minnesota and stop investigating the Somali fraud and stuff like that. Like it's politically useful, And that's gross. Like, that's gross. Um, her death is being used for that. It's so politicized. But I mean, she was involved in political action in the circumstances of her death. So it's a whole big unfortunate and avoidable situation. And I think that it'll probably be the courts that decide whether or not that officer gets punished and goes to jail for that or not. So those are my thoughts on that. I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to. This is just in summary, this is a very different situation that the left mock Charlie basically mock Charlie Kirk's murder as being justified because of his speech, but then they stand behind someone else as a martyr fighting against law enforcement and getting killed doing it. And that seems to be the MO, that seems to be the agenda, because it's so many years of this sort of thing where it's about defending the criminal and somebody engaged in crime. They're engaged in crime at the time of their death, and going, that's who they connect with. That is the cause for them. That is the one that they sympathize with. The person engaged in the struggle against law enforcement, against law and order, getting killed, that is the cause. And I think that that's a Marxist cause. I think that's an aspect of the socialist, communist, Marxist ideology underpinning progressivism, the struggle against the system, while obviously wanting to be that system as well, right? While at the same time they're out protesting on behalf of dictator Maduro and wanting him to be released, while they call Trump a dictator. That these things are happening at the same time is just crazy. So, okay. It is sad that she's dead, though, and it's sad for her family. And we can offer up prayers for them, because they're certainly in mourning. The people who lost her are certainly in mourning, and that's sad. Period. So I mean, I would give them that. That's all I've got to say, I think, on this. I think I've covered everything. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.